Hi friends, this is Joe, and this is episode number 191 of the Dekahedron RPG podcast, and this is episode number 3 in my How I Create a Sandbox Campaign setting. And last time I said that my steps, 2 through whatever, were answering the 20 questions about, 20 questions about my campaign setting, which comes from a blog post by Jeff Reintz. That's the pronunciation I'm going with. Link to that below. But the first question is, what is the deal with my cleric's religion? Now, if you're playing in a pre-made campaign, pre-made world, like Greyhawk or what's that other one? Forgotten Realms, whatever. They have their own religions. Just bake them in, use that. I don't play in those worlds. I like to make my own worlds, as you probably guessed if you're this far into this series. And so when I do a new world, I either recycle a religion I've already used or I create a new one. I'm creating a new one for this one. And if you remember from episode 1 in the series, I said that Iceland is doing a lot of inspiration for this campaign I'm doing, Asfjord. And no, I keep saying Asfjord. It's Elmsfjord. Asfjord is going to be another town, but I'm getting ahead of myself. But I said that Elmsfjord, actually this whole region, is kind of contested between two kingdoms, right? They both claim it as theirs, and the locals kind of pay taxes to both sides. But this is the kind of era when kings don't have large standing armies on their own. If a king wants to invade somebody, he has to call on all his nobles and ask them to bring their armies. And so if he's gonna ask to use these guys' armies against that other kingdom, he needs to be nicer to them than they do, right? So I haven't named those kingdoms yet. Right now in my mind, it's just the Northern Kingdom and the Southern Kingdom. And it's too cliche, let's just go with cliche, to say that one of them is the good kingdom and one of them is the evil kingdom. Let's just have both of them be the good kingdoms in different ways. And let's have the religion mirror that, echo that. So what if we have two good gods, we're using the D&D alignment systems, and one evil god? I like that a lot. And so one of the good gods can be associated with the Northern Kingdom, and one of the good gods can be associated with the Southern Kingdom. So that whole north-south being caught in the middle, that is very much based on, 9th, 10th century Britain. The religious thing, though, is very much set based on the Iceland thing. So in Iceland, right around the year 1000, they had a vote to say, are we going to continue to worship, Thor and Odin and all of them, or are we going to worship the Christian religion, Christ, and everything that's involved in that? And that implies that just before the year 1000, both these religions were coexisting on the island somewhat peacefully. But there was some conflict. But most of all, people got along with each other. And the reason that they finally had to do it wasn't so much that people, were killing each other over it, but that they were two different worldviews. It's not just a matter of I worship Thor or I worship Christ. It was a matter that if you worship Thor, your concept of legal system was revenge-based justice, right? If, actually an example right out of history, Eric the Red, his thralls set off an avalanche and killed some of his neighbors. Whether they did it intentionally or accidentally, I don't know, but they did it. And so the neighbors, insisting on the blood price, on vengeance, went and they killed the thralls. Eric, having paid good money for those thralls, went off and killed those neighbors, right? That's a very Norse way of doing things. By the way, I use the word Norse. I avoid the word Viking because Viking is not a group of people. Viking is a thing that some people did. Viking was the Norse word for pirate, raider, invader. It wasn't what, it was an action. It's, I'm going to go Viking. It wasn't the name of anybody. And to take that action and assign it to everybody seems rude to me, right? It's like calling everybody pirates when only one small group of pirates. Although I guess we could get into the Buccaneers there, but let's not. Anyway, where was I? Eric the Red, killed. Yep, okay. So that was a very Norse religion way of looking at things. Whereas the Christian side of Iceland, they would sue you for the wear price, the wear guild of those people. They would take you to court and they would settle things that way. Now, I am not one to use real world religions in my game. I think that's offensive or potentially offensive to players that you might have around your table. I would feel weird as a GM playing a real world god. If you want that level of divine to human intervention. And even though you're going to say, hey, Joe, no one's worshipped Thor since the 1940s. I say that because that's when the last Norse worshiper, recorded Norse worshiper on Iceland passed away. It actually survived generation after generation for a while, but in very small groups. Most of the island was Christian. Anyway, so in fact, one of my, actually, he was a GM of mine. His name was Ernie. He's a Wiccan, and specifically he calls himself an Erdic Wiccan. And Erdic are the weird sisters of Norse Norse religion. And so, respect. Whether people believe the same in me or differently, I think everyone deserves respect. So I don't use real world religions. I'm not going to do a one-by-one mapping either, but I'm just going to take those concepts of just different ways of looking at justice, and I'm going to map those to the different religions, right? And so those are going to be our two good gods. I'm not going to say one of them's evil, one of them's evil, one of them's good, or vice versa. So the one up north, though, we will say that is the revenge-based society, and I named that one Bel, B-E-L. And I got that name because I was trying to think of a name. I'm like, well, what strength? It's like a dumbbell. Well, that's a stupid name. And then I was like, Armstrong. I'm like, that's stupid. And I was like, went back to dumbbell and barbell. And I was like, hey, there's a lot of bells there. Kettlebell. I was like, let's just use bell. Those are two L's. And if you get into Mesopotamian religions, you get into Baal and all that. But we're not going there. It's Bell, named after a kettlebell. That's just associations in my mind. That's how I remember things. Anyway, the other one is called Lurg. Lug, I went with L-O-O-G. And that's a corruption of the Icelandic word for law. It's kind of on all their police cars and everything. It's L-O-G, something goes on. It gets really long. But Lug, so he's the more lawful one. Lawful not as in, well, maybe even, but as in, justice by trials and that thing. In common, though, they share that people have certain rights, right? And that's what makes them both good religions, right? For the most part, unless they give them up through doing something bad, people have the right to life and to happiness. And you're not allowed to take advantage of people. You're not allowed to break oaths and all that fun stuff. So those are two good religions. And then evil religion will just, take your rubber stamp evil god, insert here. All I really had to do was come up with a name. And why not make both the good god? Let's make them twins, right? And they're opposed to this evil god. Maybe make it their father. That has a very Greek mythology feel to it, right? When you have the Olympians against the Titans. I like that. Yeah, let's steal that. So I was struggling for a name, and eventually I just looked up evil in Icelandic in Google Translate, and it said that one of the words for evil is Vondur. I'm like, that sounds like a Pope evil god. So that's what I'm going with. It's Vondur. So the question is, what is the deal with my cleric's religion? The deal is two gods of good, Lug and Bel. If you want to say one's chaotic good and one's lawful good, feel free. I am more of a fan of a three-point alignment system, so those would both be lawful gods, just different ways of approaching law. And the chaotic god, the evil god, is Vondur. That's the deal with my cleric's religion for now. You know, over time, like I said, as we go over the rest of the questions, we might add to it, we might embellish. But for now, that's the deal. Thanks for watching and your listening. And until next time, happy gaming, happy life. Bye.